Ethan Cole pulled the faded baseball cap lower over his brow as he pushed open the glass door to wingspan number 17. The familiar scent of spicy buffalo sauce and crispy fried chicken rushed at him, stirring up a flood of memories. But today, Ethan wasn't here as the founder and CEO of a 43-location chicken wing franchise. Today, he was someone entirely different, a regular customer in a plain gray hoodie, worn-out jeans, and an unassuming face. The lunchtime crowd had died down, leaving just a few scattered tables occupied. It was the perfect time for a quiet mission. For the past 3 weeks, Ethan had been visiting his locations incognito, determined to see his empire through the eyes of an average patron. And overall, he'd been pleased. Clean stores, friendly staff, food made to spec. But this location was different. Financial reports had flagged unusual discrepancies, an unusually high number of loyalty redemptions, but with food costs that didn't add up. The more he looked, the more it unsettled him. Ethan had built Wingspan with his own 2 hands and an unshakable belief in trust. But something told him that trust was being exploited. He ran a hand over the coarse stubble he'd deliberately grown for this mission, part of his disguise, and made his way to the counter. "Welcome to Wingspan. What can I get you?" The cashier's voice was flat, indifferent. Ethan glanced at her name tag, Lexi. It sat crooked on a wrinkled uniform. She was glued to her phone, chewing gum loudly and with zero shame. "I'll take a dozen original wings, half buffalo, half mango habanero, and a large soda," Ethan said, keeping his voice rough and casual. "To be $17.99. "Got a loyalty card?" Lexi asked, eyes still on her screen. "Nope, not today," Ethan replied, handing her a 20. "You should sign up. Earn a free meal after 10 visits," she said, monotone, like a machine. Her indifference made Ethan shiver. Grabbing his change and table number, Ethan chose a small seat near the register, a perfect perch to watch without drawing attention. He pretended to scroll his phone, all while mentally cataloging what he saw. Crumbs on the floor, a messy condiment station with sauce packets strewn about, and napkin dispensers nearly empty. Behind the counter were only 3 staff, Lexi, a teen working the fryer, and someone unseen in the back kitchen. 15 minutes passed. The kitchen wasn't busy, yet his order hadn't arrived. Ethan's brow creased slightly. Then Lexi's voice rang out, not to greet a customer but during a personal phone call, loud and without care. "Hey girl, I'm at work. Lunch rush is over. Barely anyone here. I'm off at 4. Ethan kept up his act, eyes glued to the screen, but his attention locked onto every word. He had drilled it into his managers. No personal calls on the floor. It was basic professionalism. And then she said something that made every nerve in Ethan's body tighten. "Remember those loyalty cards people leave behind? I keep them. I scan a different one with each new order." Points add up super fast. It hit him like a slap. He didn't move, but inside he was seething. "Then I redeem the points for free food, sell the meals to people I know for half price. All cash. Management never checks the accounts. I made like $300, 0 cents this week alone." Each word was like a dagger to Ethan's core. He had built trust with his customers, brick by brick, and now that trust was being weaponized by someone he had paid to protect it. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It cut at the very principles Ethan believed in. Honesty isn't a strategy, it's a foundation. A young employee finally brought over his tray of wings. "Order 22, the boy mumbled. Ethan forced a smile. "Thanks." He glanced at the food. The wings were smaller than standard. Some were dry, others were drowning in sauce. No consistency. He took a bite, but the flavor was lost to the storm swirling in his thoughts. Lexi's voice continued to float across the room. "I've got a whole stash of ghost cards. Keep 'em in an envelope under the drawer. My little money printers." Then a group of regulars walked in. Ethan saw Lexi perk up. She ended the call instantly and transformed, smiling, bubbly, charming. "Hey, Mr. Donovan, usual today? How's your wife doing at the new job?" Mr. Donovan smiled back and pulled out his loyalty card. Ethan watched Lexi scan it, grinning. "You're just 3 visits away from a free meal." "Can't wait," Mr. Donovan replied cheerfully. But to Ethan, the sight was painful. That man had earned every one of those points with trust, and behind his back, someone was siphoning them away. Ethan quietly pulled out his tablet, connected to the guest Wi-Fi, and logged in using a hidden admin account he'd created years ago. He combed through the loyalty data. Some cards were accumulating points 5 times in a single day. Others showed redemptions at 2 a.m. long after the restaurant had closed. His stomach turned cold. This wasn't just a glitch. Finishing his meal in silence, Ethan wrapped the remaining wings and stood up. "Have a nice day," Lexi muttered automatically. Ethan nodded, barely audible. "I'll be back. Sooner than you think." He stepped outside into the soft spring breeze. The world looked calm. Customers came and went. Person in time. And inside Ethan Cole, a storm had begun. Lexi squinted slightly when a customer used the loyalty app on their phone. Her smile faltered, barely perceptible, but clear enough for Ethan to catch it. Once the customer moved away, Lexi leaned toward her lanky, patchy-bearded coworker and whispered something. He snickered in response. Ethan, sitting nearby, quietly noted the exchange in his phone. The new mobile app had tighter security and was harder to manipulate than physical cards. Lexi's discomfort said it all. It was a threat to her little operation. Later, when the restaurant emptied out again, Ethan returned to the counter. This time, just to order fries. Not because he was hungry, but to watch her closely. Lexi didn't recognize him from the day before. "For here or to go?" she asked, her smile still robotic and empty. "For here," Ethan replied, deliberately fumbling with his wallet and letting a few coins fall to the floor. As he bent down to pick them up, he took the opportunity to glance beneath the counter, just as he suspected. The drawer at Lexi's feet was slightly ajar, revealing a white envelope tucked among a mess of papers. The phantom cards she had bragged about. "Sorry about that," he said as he stood up and handed over the exact change. Lexi didn't flinch. She stayed perfectly in character, the image of a model employee. Back at his table, Ethan opened his tablet and logged into the restaurant's surveillance system using his admin credentials. He switched to a rear-facing camera and zoomed in on the register area, just in time to catch a man in a delivery uniform walk in. No payment, no pleasantries. Lexi pulled a card from the envelope, swiped it through the register, tapped a few buttons, and handed over a receipt. The moment played in Ethan's mind like a slow-motion film. Everything Lexi had casually confessed the day before was now unfolding in real time, undeniable. Free wings taste better when you're getting paid for them. When the fries arrived, delivered by the same acne-faced teen as the day before, Ethan decided to probe gently. "Is place always this busy?" "About 6 months, the kid responded, clearly nervous. "What's the employee discount like?" The teen hesitated, eyes darting toward Lexi. It's okay. Lexi sometimes hooks us up with the rewards points." "Hooks you up?" Ethan feigned surprise. I should get back to work," the teen mumbled before scurrying off. As time passed, Ethan witnessed more suspicious activity. A group of college students walked in, spoke briefly with Lexi, and walked away with discounted meals, without completing any visible transaction. The assistant manager, a weary-looking woman in her 40s, didn't seem to notice. She was preoccupied in the back office with stacks of paperwork. But Ethan knew better. This kind of negligence wasn't accidental. Digging deeper into the loyalty data, Ethan discovered that this location had a 44% higher participation rate in the rewards program than the company-wide average, a number so perfect it practically screamed fraud. On his way out, Ethan overheard Lexi whisper to her bearded coworker, "Marcus wants 6 meals tonight. Tell Kyle to pack extra. Same price, cash only. I'll transfer the points myself." The coworker laughed knowingly. Ethan walked out in silence, the pieces of a disturbing puzzle beginning to snap into place. This wasn't an isolated scheme. It was an organized, well-oiled operation woven into the fabric of the very brand he had bled to build. And if he was going to dismantle it, he needed evidence, concrete, undeniable. The next day, Ethan returned. But this time, he wasn't just a quiet customer. Light-pressed shirt, dark tie, hair slicked back with product, tortoise-shell glasses, a corporate ID badge, and a briefcase full of official-looking documents. He walked in with the confidence of a corporate inspector. "I'm Mark Peterson from the Systems Analytics Division," he said, extending his hand to Brenda Wilson, the assistant manager from the previous day. Brenda blinked, startled. "Oh, I wasn't told someone from corporate was coming." "This is just a routine audit," Ethan said flatly. "Your store's performance metrics are exceptional. I'd like to learn more about the strategies you're using." Brenda straightened up, her pride returning. "We focus heavily on customer engagement. The team here is very proactive about promoting loyalty signups." "Excellent. I'd like to observe for a bit and speak with some staff, if that's okay." "Of course. I'll give you a tour." During the walkthrough, Ethan spotted more red flags. A second phone, identical to the one Lexi had used, was plugged into a charger in the office. Nearby, a handwritten notebook listed delivery addresses with dollar amounts scribbled beside them, likely off the book's payments. "What's this phone for?" Ethan asked casually. "Oh, some customers call directly for large orders. It's just easier to manage that way," Brenda said with a faint stammer. Ethan nodded like he accepted the answer, filing it away. He began interviewing staff, starting with Kyle, the same teenager from earlier. Kyle stumbled through the questions, contradicting himself, face reddening at each mention of loyalty redemptions or off-the-record orders. "Lexi mostly handles the redemptions," Kyle said quickly, eager to deflect. 3 other employees offered similar stories, nervous glances, inconsistent answers, and small slips of truth hiding in their discomfort. By noon, Ethan had enough to confirm his suspicions. At least 6 staff members were involved. They collected abandoned loyalty cards, faked redemptions, gave away meals, and pocketed the cash. None of it ever made it into the official records. Yet on paper, the metrics looked fantastic, creating an illusion of stellar performance. After his final interview, Ethan sat down with Brenda in the office. "Her loyalty program participation rate is 44% higher than the company average," he said, opening his laptop. "That's a remarkable achievement." Brenda smiled, though her eyes twitched ever so slightly. "Yes, our team works very hard." Ethan turned the screen toward her, revealing detailed spreadsheets. "Then perhaps you can explain these redemptions occurring after store hours, or these accounts accumulating points at impossible rates." Brenda's face turned pale. "It could be a glitch in the system." "Or," Ethan said, his voice even, "someone's manipulating the data. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. And the inventory discrepancies, food costs that don't align with sales figures?" Brenda swallowed hard. "That's being addressed in the next audit cycle." Ethan stared at her. The truth was becoming undeniable. Brenda wasn't just ignoring the fraud. She had a reason to protect it. The final piece came from Derek, a college-age cook. "Everyone likes working here because of the bonuses," Derek said while chopping vegetables. "Bonuses?" Ethan asked. "Didn't like if the The loyalty stats are high. Brenda gets a quarterly bonus from corporate. She shares it with us. Everything clicked. Brenda hadn't just turned a blind eye. She was incentivizing the fraud. Her bonuses depended on inflated metrics, and she kept her team complicit by giving them a cut. On paper, everything looked perfect, but under the surface, the system was rotting. As Ethan prepared to leave, a young woman intercepted him in the parking lot. Her eyes were wide with anxiety. "You're really from corporate, right?" she asked in a whisper. "Yes," Ethan replied, staying in character. "I think something shady is happening here. It's about the loyalty cards. I don't want to be part of it." In that moment, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope breaking through the emotional bruises he'd been carrying. "Then, tell me everything," he said, opening his car door, inviting the nervous eyes of the first person brave enough to step out of the shadows. Rain tapped gently on the windshield, forming a soft private curtain that shielded Ethan and Jade from the outside world. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held firm resolve. "Lexi's the ringleader," she began, twisting a napkin between her fingers, each movement betraying the pressure inside. "My second day here, she taught me how to work the system. Said, everyone does it, but I didn't. And after that, they started shutting me out." Ethan nodded, listening carefully. "What exactly did she show you?" Jade glanced quickly toward the window, then leaned in. "She keeps the loyalty cards that customers forget in an envelope, but that's just the surface. She also calls customer service pretending to be angry customers, complaining about cold food, wrong orders, anything, just to get compensation codes." Ethan gripped the steering wheel tighter. The very policies he had designed to earn customer trust were now being weaponized against his own business. "And those compensation cards? Lexi collects them all, uses them to get free food and resells the meals for cash. She's got a whole list of fake complaints she's filed. It's all a scam." A slow burning anger rose in Ethan's chest, but even more painful was the sense of betrayal. His systems, his values, his people, twisted for personal gain. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked, his eyes locked on hers. "Because it's stealing," Jade said firmly, her voice filled with indignation. "Because real customers like Mr. Donovan, the man who comes in 3 times a week, every week, had his points stolen and funneled into fake accounts by Lexi." I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Ethan took a deep breath. What had once been suspicion was now undeniable truth. "Need proof," he said. "I'll help. Tomorrow night, they're doing a big delivery for a college party. All cash, off the books." The plan began to form in Ethan's mind. A covert operation to expose the full extent of the fraud. That night, Ethan suited up in a delivery uniform from a competing restaurant. Hidden cameras were tucked into the buttons of his jacket and the brim of his baseball cap. Jade had already discreetly disabled the back door alarm. "They're ready," she whispered as they met briefly in the hallway. "Lexi's on the register. Brenda's in her office counting cash from off-the-books orders." Ethan stepped inside, head lowered. "Pickup for Marcus." Lexi didn't look twice. 6 meals, same as always. $60, half price." Just as expected, Ethan handed her the cash. Lexi slipped it into her pocket without touching the register. She pulled out 6 loyalty cards from her envelope and scanned each one, muttering, "Redeeming rewards." The system logged each redemption. Ethan waited quietly, filming it all. In the kitchen, he captured footage of extra chicken being added to each container, inventory that would never be accounted for. Then Brendan emerged, her eyes narrowing when she spotted his uniform. "Who are you?" she asked sharply. "New delivery guy for Marcus." Jade cut in. "The usual one quit." Brenda frowned, then turned and disappeared back into the office. Ethan completed the deal by handing Kyle an additional $20, 0 cents. Kyle stuffed the bill into his pocket without a word. Every second was recorded, clear, irrefutable. Back in his car, Ethan replayed the footage. The evidence was damning. Lexi scanning fake cards, Kyle accepting off-the-books cash, Brenda counting money never logged in the system. A fraud machine, running like clockwork, fueled by greed. That night, Ethan compiled it all, 3 days of surveillance, digital records, Jade's testimony, and tonight's video evidence. The estimated losses, nearly $27,000, 0 cents over 6 months in stolen food and fraudulent redemptions. The next morning, Brenda gathered the staff in the restaurant. Someone from corporate is coming in today to talk about the loyalty program. Lexi yawned, eyes glued to her phone. Kyle nervously shredded a napkin. Only Jade sat near the door, eyes fixed on the entrance. "Who's the corporate guy?" Lexi asked, not even looking up. The door opened. A man in a charcoal suit stepped inside, clean-cut, composed, exuding quiet authority. No one recognized him. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm but commanding. Brenda rushed forward. "Hi, I'm Brenda Wilson." "I know who you are," Ethan interrupted. He didn't shake her hand. Instead, he placed a briefcase on the table and looked each employee in the eye. "I'm Ethan Cole, founder and owner of Wingspan." The room fell into stunned silence. Lexi froze, her phone slipping from her hand. Kyle went pale. Brenda's face lost all color. We didn't know you'd be visiting," Brenda stammered. "I've been visiting for days," Ethan said, his tone firm. "Sometimes as a regular customer, sometimes as a corporate analyst. Last night, as Marcus's delivery driver." Lexi shot a venomous glance at Jade. Ethan continued. "I uncovered a coordinated fraud operation in this location." He opened his tablet, connecting it to the restaurant's wall-mount TV. Footage played. Lexi scanning ghost cards, Kyle pocketing money, Brenda counting unreported cash. "That's not what it looks like," Lexi blurted, standing up. "That's just an internal promotion." "Save it," Ethan snapped. "I have audio recordings, system data, testimony from honest." He turned to Jade. She sat tall, resolute. "She's the traitor," Lexi shouted. "She's the only person in this room who understands what integrity means," Ethan replied firmly. "Loyalty isn't just a marketing gimmick, it's a promise." Brenda scrambled to defend herself. "This must be a misunderstanding. Maybe we're just not following corporate's exact procedures. You stole nearly $27,000, 0 cents from my company," Ethan said bluntly. "You manipulated the system to collect quarterly bonuses, and worse, you betrayed the trust of customers like Mr. Donovan, people who believed our system was fair." He pulled a stack of documents from his briefcase. "These are termination notices." He read off the names clearly, without hesitation. Brenda Wilson, Alexandria Carter, Kyle Jennings, Derek Prescott, Miguel Sanchez, Thomas Reeves. Security is waiting at the door. The room exploded into chaos. Lexi screamed profanities. Kyle burst into tears. Brenda begged, throwing out excuse after excuse. But Ethan stood firm amidst the storm, calm, resolute, like a captain steady at the helm of a ship in a hurricane. "We'll be pursuing criminal charges," he continued, "and we will recover what was stolen, not for the money, but for the trust. Fraud and theft are not industry practices, they're crimes." Ethan's voice rang out sharp and unwavering, each word echoing through the stunned silence of the dining room. Right on cue, the door swung open. 2 police officers stepped in, flanked by Wingspan's head of corporate security. Lexi jumped to her feet, grabbing her purse, panic flaring in her eyes. "This is ridiculous. You have no proof," she shouted. "Don't we?" Ethan tilted his head toward the big screen on the wall, where her face was frozen mid-scan with a stolen loyalty card. "I think we can prove everything." What followed was a blur of paperwork, officer reports, and stunned corporate reps implementing emergency protocols. Regional managers were in disbelief. The store they thought was their top performer had turned out to be the center of a large-scale fraud operation. By noon, it was all over. The fraudulent employees had been taken into custody. Locks were changed, system passwords updated, and a crisis team began contacting every affected customer. When the dust settled, Ethan found Jade sitting alone in the now empty dining room. She looked like someone who had just weathered a storm, distant yet composed. "You okay?" he asked, taking a seat across from her. She nodded slowly. "Doing the right thing, it's never easy." "Exactly why it matters," Ethan said with a soft smile. "So, what do you want for your future?" Jade looked at him, surprised. Ethan slid a document across the table. "Team lead, wingspan number 17, what do you say?" 2 months later, Ethan stood before a crowd of customers, employees, and local media. A red ribbon stretched across the doors of wingspan number 17, now completely transformed. The story of the undercover CEO who exposed a loyalty fraud scheme had spread like wildfire. "Today isn't just the reopening of a restaurant," Ethan announced, scissors in hand. "It's a new chapter for this brand, a story about broken trust and the work it takes to earn it back." Beside him stood Jade Martinez, now the official store manager. Her crisp new uniform wasn't just a symbol of her promotion, it represented her integrity. She had worked side by side with Ethan to rebuild this place from the ground up. New systems, new staff, a new culture. "Before we cut this ribbon," Ethan continued, "I want to make one thing clear. Trust isn't something you're given, it's something you earn." Every part of the loyalty system had been overhauled. The new mobile app now used biometric verification and unique QR codes that couldn't be duplicated. Physical cards required a matching photo ID. Most importantly, Ethan had personally called every customer who lost points, offering not just replacements but triple the amount they were owed. "Mr. Donovan," Ethan said, gesturing to the front row where the familiar balding gentleman sat, "would you do us the honor of being our first official customer today?" "Proud to," Mr. Donovan replied, stepping forward to a round of applause. With a single snip, the ribbon fell, and the restaurant reopened to cheers. Inside, everything gleamed. New equipment, open kitchen layouts, and a large digital display showing real-time loyalty transactions for full transparency. Jade guided her new team with confidence. Every employee had been hand-picked, not just for skills, but for character. Near the counter, a wall displayed photos of the new team, alongside a framed code of ethics. In the center hung a single loyalty card and a shadow box, a silent reminder of the lessons learned. "Quite a transformation," noted a local reporter. "Most places would have shut down after something like this." "The easy path isn't always the right one," Ethan replied. "Sometimes you have to face problems head-on to truly fix them." The scandal at Store 17 had become a wake-up call. Ethan began making surprise visits to all other locations. While no others had fraud on the same scale, a few had issues with cleanliness, food consistency, or service, problems that were quickly addressed. From that point forward, Wingspan redefined its metrics for success. Performance bonuses now required more than high loyalty participation. They demanded customer satisfaction scores, food quality ratings, and unannounced audits. By early afternoon, Store 17 was buzzing with energy. Every table filled, every team member moving with purpose. Across the room, Jade caught Ethan's eye and gave him a subtle nod. Everything was running perfectly. "You know what's ironic?" Jade said, taking a short break beside Ethan. "We're actually seeing higher real loyalty participation now than during the fake numbers." "Not surprising," Ethan replied. True loyalty comes from trust, not manipulation. 6 months later, Store 17 became the highest performing location in the entire Wingspan network, leading in satisfaction, sales, and employee retention. The site, once stained by scandal, had become the gold standard. 1 year after the bust, Ethan sat alone at his usual table. No disguise, no hidden cameras, just observing. Jade, now a district manager, walked over with a basket of hot wings. "On the house," she said with a smile, "for old time's sake." Ethan examined the wings, perfectly portioned, evenly sauced, cooked just right. "They're flawless. I made them myself," Jean grinned. "Some things still deserve a personal touch." Ethan nodded, deeply moved. That's the kind of loyalty we want. Around them, customers happily scanned their apps. Every point earned, real and deserved. Staff worked with pride. And in the corner, Mr. Donovan raised his drink toward Ethan in a quiet toast, eyes full of gratitude. Ethan took a bite of the wing, the flavor rich and satisfying, not because it was free, but because it had been earned with integrity, courage, and the restoration of trust.